Hi, my name is Victoria Cash. I am doing a social studies lesson for second grade. It was the one I would have done in the field, but my schools don't allow that, so we are here. I did do this lesson in the field, however, I just didn't record it there. So we're just going to review over what happened and go over each activity. So my title for my Day 1 unit is Map Day 1. We are learning about direction and the 3 different types of maps. So for our motivation activity, what we did first was I told the students to stand out behind their desk and follow the few instructions I was about to give them. I made sure to say instruction because I wanted them to catch on, because we're trying to teach them direction as well. So I told them to stand up, stand directly behind their desk, facing which way their chair was. Next, I asked everyone to take 2 steps to their right. So I turned around and made sure they knew where their right was and where their left was. And then I told them to take 3 steps back, and I told them to make sure they were very careful so they didn't trip or fall or anything. The next thing I did was I told them to take 5 steps to the left. We just took some steps to the right, now let's take steps to the left. Now, I told everyone to stay where they are, freeze, and look around the room. I said, you're not where you began. I said, by following the directions I told you, you have stepped into different directions. We can use maps to help us find directions in different places. When we did our pre-test, it looks like this. And I said, one of your vocabulary words on your pre-test was direction. I said, what was the definition for direction? Which I knew most of the students missed that one. And when they told me the answer, they still got it wrong. I was like, well, direction is when it tells where something is found. I said, so we're going on a treasure hunt. We are going to follow the directions to find the hidden treasure. And they said, and they understood it that way. By doing this activity, I feel like they understood direction better. The next thing I did was I reviewed and I asked them a series of questions just to get a ground base of how much they actually knew about geography and maps and all that. So I asked them, could they tell me what geography was? And several students raised their hand and they told me different elements that had to do with geography. They told me about, compass rose, a map, a globe. But they never could tell me the actual definition for geography. So the next question I asked was, can anyone tell me what a map is? And the students all said, a map is something that has a continent, or it has a country. And I was like, well, what is a map? I said, is it a 3D dimensional thing or a 2D? And they're like, well, a globe is 3. And I was like, well, a map is like a paper representation. I said it's flat so we can see the whole continent on one piece of paper. Then I said we will, I was informing them of what we were going to learn over the next 4 or 5 days for our unit. I said we will be learning the different continents, oceans, states, cities. We will also learn about the Native Americans who lived here before us. I said, and then we're going to learn about compass rose, longitude, latitude, and we're going to learn about the different types of maps, which that's what we're doing today. We're learning about maps. So, to start off our activity after we reviewed was I read the book Follow the Map. This is a book that has first mapping skills. So the students got to, as we read through the book, I pointed out what a legend was and explained what a legend was. I pointed out what a compass rose was and what the north, south, east, and west stood for. Then the book introduced us different mapping skills. They introduced longitude and latitude, introduced many skills that I informed them that we will be using throughout the entire week. After we finished the book, we started on different types of maps, which I showed them a piece of paper like this. And I asked them, did they know what the different types of maps were? And I covered up the names of them. I just showed them the 3 maps. And I was like, well, describe each one for me. And they described that you could see the land and you could see the mountains. On this one, it had all the continents and states labeled and countries. And then on this one, it showed They said it showed color, and I asked them what they thought the color might stand for. And after this, I passed out everybody a sheet that looked just like this. And it had these words and these maps. And we went over it together. I said, so, a physical map. I said it shows location and Earth's land features. So it shows us where mountains are. It shows us where bodies of water is. So on our map, you can see that it shows the Appalachian and Rocky Mountains over here. And I told the students, remember, physical shows you the physical elements that the land has. So it shows us the mountains, it shows us the plains, it shows us the oceans. Then we moved on to political maps. I said a political map provides the boundaries and location of the political units, such as countries, states, parishes, cities, and towns. So, on this map, I showed them, this is the political map. It shows us the different continents. It shows us the different countries. I said if we zoomed in, it would show us the states, the parishes, and the cities. And I was like, just remember, the physical map shows you the mountains. It shows you the plains. It shows you the oceans. The political map shows you the boundaries of each one. It shows you where the United States is, where Canada is, where New Mexico is. So it shows you the breakdown of each one. I said the last one is a theatrical map. This shows the population. It emphasizes a particular theme, such as a climate, and I showed them the map. And I showed them, I was like, this is a map legend. I said it tells us, which population goes where. So, the red represents a number of population, the green represents a certain population. After we finished that, I said, did any of you know that I said, can you name me, let's review, can you name me the 3 types of maps? And they said theatrical, political, and physical. After I did this, I passed out the Venn diagram. And I told them, I said, make sure you write your name at the top. I said, now write theatrical, political, and physical on your map, on your Venn diagram. And then I want you to tell me 3 things that are different, and I want you to tell me 2 things that are alike with each one. And then tell me 2 things that are alike about all 3. And on this, they worked individually to break down the diagram, and they still had this paper. I made sure they all still had this paper at their desk, and this, gave them the definition of each one. So it kind of helped them fill out this. Once I gave them plenty of time to finish, I walked around the room, monitored, looked at some of their answers, took the paper up when they got done, so I could get the written assessment of it. After we finished this, I put the students into groups of 3 or 4, depending. I think there was 20 there that day, so we had to break it up, and we broke everybody up into 4 groups of 4. The students I gave them construction paper, white paper, pencils, crayons, markers, scissors, glue, and I made sure they all still had this out. And I told them, I want you to create me one of these 3 maps, the physical, the political, or the theatrical. You do it how you want. It doesn't have to be just the United States. It can be any map. You can create a map of your own. Be creative. You can come up with a map about anything in this whole world. It doesn't have to be a real map. Just make a map showing me one of the 3 elements. Make sure to label the element on there. I gave them plenty of time to finish this. And once they all finished, I did my closure. I reviewed the whole lesson with them. I asked them several questions like, do you know what a political map is, a theatrical map, and a physical map? Making sure they remembered the 3. And they did not quote this page, which was a good review because that means they understood it in their own words. They could tell me in their own words what each of them meant. Then I asked them, could they tell me what a compass rose is? Because we did show them in the book what a compass rose was, and it showed us north, south, east, and west, and I asked them, could they identify those? And then I asked them, could they tell me what a legend was based off of what a legend represented, and then I pointed to this to make sure they remembered this was the legend. After we finished all these questions, I allowed each group one at a time to come up and put their map under the Elmo and show their map to the class, explaining their map, explaining which type of map it was. And then for homework, the students had to complete a learning map worksheet, which is this worksheet, which they had to label each map 1, 2, or 3 based on if it's a theometrical, political, or physical. And then they had to write me a description of why this was physical, why this was political, and why this was theometrical. The higher order thinking questions I made sure to ask throughout my lesson was, can you name the 3 different types of maps? The students could answer that very easily. They said political, theometrical, and physical. And then I asked them, can you tell me about one of the 3 maps in your own words? And several of them, they were really fond of quoting the political map, just because they knew that the political map was the regions where it had the boundaries of the continent, the states, the cities, and the towns. And then my last question was, could they tell me the difference between the physical and theometrical? So could they tell me the difference between this one, which showed land, and this one, which showed population? For my modifications, I had some special needs students, and then I had one behavioral needs student. And I made sure they're all there in their preferable seating. I made sure to repeat the directions, and the teacher acted as the paraprofessional. For my early finishers, I had them go back to the map they created and come up with a unique name for their map. For reteach, I would reteach for some of the students who didn't fully understand. I would review over the 3 images of the map. I would review these 3 with the pictures and review the definitions and help the student come up with definitions in their own words. And then I would go do this activity with them. I would, help them come up with 3 things that were different about all 3, things that were alike about all 3, and 3 that were alike about there. Just to make sure they knew, and I could tell they knew with my help. For enrichment, the students will create a map of their own street. So they will take their street and they will create their own map. They will make either a political, theometrical, or physical map, and then they will label which model they used. For the assessment, the students and teachers will know if the outcome has been met by written, visual, and oral observation. I will know by how they did their Venn diagram. I will know by walking around and visually seeing how they were working with others, and the way they answered I could use orally. Success of the students' learning can be determined by their ability to write about the different types of maps on their homework and on their Venn diagram. For my reflections over this lesson, the lesson was pretty good, I think. The students enjoyed the motivation activity where they got to move around the room. They got by following the directions I gave them. They, however, did get a little wild during that, and had to rein them back in just so we could continue with our lesson. And the students really enjoyed the books that we read together. Even though I didn't read it here, but I did read it in the class, and we got to point out the different things, and the students got to come up and show different things they thought about the book. I, however, think I could have improved on the types of questions I asked. I know I hit the lower levels of Bloom throughout the whole entire lesson, but only parts of the lesson did I hit the higher order thinking. I feel like I should ask more higher order thinking questions throughout the entire lesson. The students also did sometimes not understand the questions I was asking, and I don't know if it was the way I asked, by the wording I said, or what. But I had to rephrase it several times, and I had to repeat directions several times for the students. I feel that my lesson could have been better if the students got social studies more often. This isn't a common thing. They do one worksheet with 5 questions for the whole week. Their information wasn't as current with the standards as I felt it should have been. I did look at the Venn diagrams that the students completed, and I feel like at least 75% of them did understand what I was asking, but they didn't write in complete sentences. So I don't know if I should have, said make sure you write in complete sentences, or if the students just really couldn't answer in complete sentences. But overall, I think the lesson was pretty good. This was one of the pre-tests I had, and as you can see, the students only missed compass, rose, and globe. They did get north, south, east, and west right, And they only missed what the United States is and what Louisiana is. And I made sure to circle their answer and circle the correct answer when I gave it back to them. Alrighty, thank you.